Let's get spiritual. Hi, so this video today, I thought it'd be kind of really cool to go over the cards I've collected over the years, my oracle cards, my goddess cards, my tarot cards. I wanted to show some with you, and I wanted to share some little tidbits and tips on how to gather your collection and how to work with drawing your collection to you. A lot of the cards almost pick you in a way. And so this is where I always tell people, cover your energy fields, cover your femininity, cover your masculinity, cover your earth and your fire and your water and your sign. If you're Scorpio, it's Sagittarius, a Taurus, whatever it is. Find those cards that represent an energy that's part of you and about you. A lot of it is the artwork and the stories it tells to you, because they are like reading a story. Our lives are like a story, and our cards are telling us what we need to learn and grasp and understand and look forward to. And so take that energy within you and tap into a bit and say, you know what? I need a little bit of balance, and balance is key. That's why I'm always a multi-card person. I have more than one card deck that I deal with. I have a couple cards I use for clients. I have cards I use for me. I have goddess cards, angel cards, oracle cards. And so the difference between some of them, I want to try and explain a little bit in this video. But I always tell people, make sure there's substance behind them. Make sure you're getting a deck that reads something to you. You know, there's tips and tricks that a lot of people recommend, like sleeping with your cards underneath your pillow the first time you get them. Shuffling, learning how to shuffle. Just spend a week just feeling and putting your energy into cards. Shuffle them nonstop. You know, read a card a day. I always tell people, do one card a day. Keep it separate so you learn each card and tackle it to where it feels like it's second nature, to where you feel like you can just pull a card and randomly and just automatically know what it is. And some people, they just study the art. I've seen really cool antique decks that had no verbiage, no numbers. It was just the art. And they were reading the picture behind the art, and they were just telling you based on that. And then I've seen cards, I have a friend whose mom was also a psychic, and her mom made her own tarot deck, and she has that deck to this day. And it's so cool seeing somebody handwritten and hand-drawn tarot deck, and that energy and that love that she put into that, and then watching now her daughter uses that. I mean, there's just some really interesting, artistically done tarot cards, oracle cards, angel cards, decks out there that you just have to kind of just first tap into the energy you want to put into it. So I always find it fascinating, the stories behind how some of the people acquire their tarot cards, you know. And so I thought it'd be cool to share my cards and my experience on how I've acquired some of them. And so anyways, okay, I'm blabbing. So I wanted to move forward, and I'm going to start off with my very first deck, because this is my personal deck. This is actually the deck that's used in my opening. And this deck of cards, my tarot cards, from here I've had since I was about, 13 years old. And now I'm going to be 40, so it has been with me throughout my whole journey and my whole life. This is the deck I need to use for myself when I'm looking for clarity for just me. And I have a great story behind it. So I was gifted when I was 13 years old, and my friend and I, we were trying to learn palmistry, and we were talking about psychic readings. And, you gotta remember it's the 90s, and, we're like little grungy kids. And, I told her how my mom did tarot cards readings with a deck of playing cards. And I remember my mom did my cards with playing cards, but I couldn't quite connect with playing cards as much as my mom could. And so we were talking about tarot cards. And lo and behold, she had gifted me a deck for Christmas that was cat tarot. And so I was like, okay, cat tarot, kind of cool. I am into cats, but I don't know if this is where I feel divine energy. And so, nothing wrong with cat tarot. I appreciate it. I love it. But at the time, it just didn't connect. And so she said, we'll take it back to the store and exchange it. And I was like, okay, you know, I'm sorry. And she's like, no, it's the whole idea of getting it started for you. And so I took back my little tarot deck, and I'm walking through the spiritual shop. And I just was looking, and nothing quite felt right to where I was and who I was at that point in my life. You know, I was obsessed with dancing and music and art, and I just wanted my cards to just sing. And, you know, and so I was looking at all the decks they had spread throughout this huge shop in the San Fernando Valley, and I just could not find my deck. So as my friend found a wizard on a crystal rock thing that she was purchasing, and I go up with her to the register, and I saw a deck. They had some decks of testers, you know, like sample cards. And I kept staring at one on the back of it, and I felt it, and I go, I think that's it. I'm pretty sure that's my deck. So I flip it over, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they look like dancers, and they're moving in the air, and they're moving in the wind. And so I said, I think that's my deck. And the woman that worked behind the counter, she said, well, you're in luck because that's the last one. So I got so excited. So I took home my Lunda Tarot with the amazing, don't judge, because, you know, everybody has their own appreciation of art. I took home my Lunda Tarot that had an amazing art that I just felt connected with the characters and the androgynous of it. It kind of reminded me of that like era of Prince and that kind of sex appeal mixed with, you know, in the 90s we had CK1 and all these things that represented unisex. And so there was like masculinity and femininity and mystique and all these great things. And so I got so excited. I'm like, this is my deck. So I'm in LA, 13 years old. I finally get my first tarot deck. I go home and I'm like, okay, I'm so ready. I'm going to do this. And I don't even know what I'm doing with them yet, but there's something that's telling me I'm supposed to do this, and this is my deck. So I open it, and the artist looked like Stevie Nicks, and I was like, okay, I'm sold. This is it. And I read it, and here I am in Los Angeles after tragedy in my life. You know, my mother died when I was young, and I had to pick up and move, and I left Ohio, which was my roots and where I was from. And the artist is from my hometown in Ohio. So it was kind of like, it was just destiny. It was meant to be. It completed what I felt missing. I was just out of Ohio. I was living in LA. I felt like I stood out like a sore thumb. You know, I mean, when you're 5'9" at 11 years old and you got hair out to here and you're wearing purple Doc Martens, people are like, who is this, you know? And I knew I had some kind of spiritual energy I was supposed to work with, and I knew it was supposed to be there. And then fast forward, and lo and behold, I have a piece of home with me always. So this deck has been in my journey and my collection from the get-go, and this is sacred to me. So I decided to not use this for anyone else but myself. And sometimes this deck talks to me. I pull out and I'm getting ready to ask it something, and all of a sudden the cards spill out, and it was talking to me like, this is you. This is what you need to be looking at right now. You're so preoccupied, but pay attention. We're talking to you. So it's this deck, I feel like I'm actually having a conversation with Ohio and Lunda Tarot herself. I feel like she's sitting there with her Stevie Nicks outfit on, and we got like music playing and wine, and I'm having an experience. So I also keep it in a box that I had purchased, being a little grungy kid in LA in the 90s, and we had Melrose and all these cool hip shops. And I bought this box that it was my jewelry box to hold my hemp jewelry. And so, but this little box from India is what I keep it in. That's also part of it too, is not just the cards itself, but also what you hold your valuables in. I love antiquing and thrift stores and finding things that people put their heart, soul, mind, body, and love into. And so one of my favorite things I've learned to collect over the years are these antique jewelry boxes that, are made out of wood. Someone hand carved this and used this to hold their precious valuables, and they held it dear to their heart. So I figured, well, that's great to hold my card collections in. So I've been lucky enough on the roads and travels. I always try to hit antique stores, flea markets, garage sales. It's like treasure hunting, And so I pick up these boxes whenever I see them, because not only did it hold somebody's valuables and it's old and it's keeping, recycling and using what's already there, it's almost like reviving what's been forgotten. So, that's the other thing too. It's not just your cards and finding something that's calling you or you're connecting to, but how do you worship and take care of your cards? They take care of you. They give you answers for things. And inside this deck, I keep things like some cards that were gifted to me. This one is really cool. This is the Mother Peace deck. This is the Queen Hippie deck because this was very popular in the 70s. I have a friend whose mom had this deck when we were young, and she would pull this deck out. These cards are round, like Mother Earth and Mother Nature, and the art is almost like tribal, This deck I was gravitated towards because it had grounding energy. If I feel like I need to do a reading for someone or myself and things feel a little bit up in the air and I need it to feel a little bit more stable, this is the deck I go to because it just reminds me of earth and grounding. Your cards, hopefully, I also fit the energy that you need to speak to. Sometimes you need fire. Fire makes me think of masculinity energy, like the sun. This is a cool deck that was gifted to me from a friend who has a reader, and she's based out of New Orleans. This is a deck of dragons. So all of you, we're not going to name the show, but I know everybody's watching it right now. This is my Mother Dragon deck. This is male, masculine energy. This is when I need to feel safe and secure, and I want to dominate yes or no answer, black and white. I use my dragon cards. The Dragon Tarot. And then this is something also in this same box. I just wanted to pull out real quick, and then I'll move on. I love supporting artists, and I love supporting people that create their own businesses, and they have their own shops, and they have, they're putting their art, mind, body, and soul into it. And you can find a lot of these people online and on social media. And so I've always been a David Bowie fan. I've mentioned it in my other video. So this is my David Bowie deck, and it was literally from a girl or a woman, I should say, who had did crowdfunding and did the digital artwork for it and everything. So when I buy something like this, I'm also thinking of the passion. Do I relate to the art? Does it speak to me on an energistic level? And am I supporting someone else's journey and passion? Somebody put their heart and soul and time into getting this deck made. I want to keep supporting that. So when you go to collect your cards, look at the what, not only what are you keeping it in, but what does it say to you? How are your cards speaking to you? When you look at the art, what does it remind you of? What tales is it telling you? What vibration is it giving to you? What energy do you get from it? Is it feminine? Is it masculine? Is it moon? Is it sun? Is it positive? Is it negative? I'm going to be honest, and this is a controversial subject because I've had masculine decks that are great. I've had feminine decks that are great. And then I've had decks that were just bad vibes, bad mojo, never had anything positive to say. So I burned them. And there's controversy about whether you should burn tarot cards, toss them, throw them. I'm a firm believer on burning. I do sacral burns I try to do them annually at least, because once it's gone, it's gone. It's dissipated. That substance right there that triggers those thoughts and everything's diminish. They're finished. Done. So this is where some people say you gotta bury him, you gotta do something sacred. But I personally, I'm a burner. That's why I said it's controversial, because every tarot reader and everybody goes, oh my gosh, don't do that. Or there's some people who are like, yeah, I agree. That's up to you. Like I said, everybody's magic's different. So what magic relates to you, my personal magic, if you can't see it, you can't read it, you can't touch it, it doesn't exist. Including pictures where it might not be the most flattering. Okay, so going forward. And now I also have, and I have things like people bring me back purses and things like that, and I'll keep tarot cards in those. A friend of mine, my Wanderlust gypsy friend, had sold all her things and moved to Thailand, and she mailed this to me on her journey in Thailand. So I thought that was kind of cool. I see it and I think of her. So that's my traveling deck. I'll put in that because I'm traveling with it, and she's traveling with me. And speaking of travelers, I have a friend, really awesome, female goddess, fellow goddess friend, and she has been starting off doing her solo goddess trips and doing that self-exploration of who you are and journeys. And she went to Mexico. So as my friend was on her travels, and she's like, I brought you back something, and it made me think of you. And she's in Mexico City. And so she was in a little village, and this woman had these decoupage boxes. This little lady was making these decoupage boxes, and she was just selling them at her little stand. And so my friend was like, girl, I got this for like $3, but it made me think of you, and I carried this big old box around, this big wooden box with Frida Kahlo on it, who represents a lot to women as far as conquering suffering and being true to who you are and standing by your grounds and not letting life completely deplete you. So I decided what I did that was a little different is I took this box, and now, excuse me, sorry, I'm going to take a little sip. So now I decided, well, I've started to collect at this point when this was gifted to me a few years ago. I had started to collect goddess cards. And goddess cards is tapping into an energy beyond you for inspiration. It's the myths, the stories, the legends behind goddesses and female energy. And I have acquired 2 decks, and I'm on the hunt for 2 more. So, I have the common deck that I recommended that I tell all women to get. Super easy to read. They tell you on the actual card itself. Everything always includes a little booklet, so as you're learning, you read. And then I have this really cool rare deck. It's a little bit more difficult to find. It's more about getting a little bit more in depth to really understanding the meaning behind the energy of these goddesses. So what I decided to do was I combine all the cards into my traveling box from my beautiful friend that had gifted this to me. And this is my party box. This is when I usually shuffle within the box itself. I pass it around. It's easy to pass it around. I've done this at events, women's events, and home parties, and even with girlfriends and hanging out with cocktails and stuff. And so with this deck and with this box, I pass it around, and people flip out their card, and we'll talk about, like Saraswati, this is about arts and the divine energy of tapping into music and arts and poetry, and how can we take this energy and apply this into your life, and let's channel in that Leonardo da Vinci that lives within you. And so, and it gets those things started, and it becomes a group conversation, and everybody gets supportive of each other, because everybody tends to pull out of the box, the magic box, something that correlates with them where they are in their life, and everyone else wants to support you on it. So I figured, to keep adding to this box is my goal. So I've been on the hunt for some really cool, rare, specifically art-wise, goddess decks. And I figure once the box is too full, then it's time for me to move to a bigger box. And then eventually can't pass it around. Everybody's got to go walk to the box. But I thought it would be kind of cool to just put your hands in and see what you can pull out of the magic hat, so to speak. The other type of cards I really wanted to go over, this is the type of cards that I always tell people, anyone and everyone can read oracle decks. Tarot cards are a little coded. They have almost like you need to really study them, and you really need to understand the meanings, not just behind the pictures, but what the energy the card represents. And for some people, that's very intimidating. Oracle cards and spiritual cards tend to give you a little bit more simple, precise answers. This is a really cool deck. How Now, 50 Ways to Celebrate the Present Moment. This is when it's like you need to learn and you're practicing your meditation, and you really need to learn and hone in on channeling in what's happening right now. What can I do today? This is that kind of deck that's almost like a workbook. And I keep an eye out for these type of cards because this is where you can do what I call my spiritual homework. And I tell my clients spiritual homework. This is where you can start to work with your journaling and your self-exploration and pulling things in. Actually, I should probably show it. But this is where, how can I take information and apply it in my own therapeutic ways? And working things out. So I love that deck because it's dealing with what can I just do today. Every time we focus and work on what can we do today, at the end, it all adds up to the bigger pie, right? So that's a great way to start. And this Vintage Wisdom Oracle deck, this is a special deck. My mom picked this deck out. And I mentioned before in another video, my mom's spirit is my main spirit guide. And my mom died when I was young. Not too young, but, like 12, puberty age. Sometimes fashion-wise, she's like, you're going to buy that dress. And her spirit tells me, you're buying that dress. I'm not buying that dress. I'm not going to wear that color. And I put that dress on, and I'm like, okay, you win. So her spirit said, those are my cards. That's my deck. If you want to talk to me about you, and you want to lecture, and you want me to help you answer this mess you got yourself into, I'm going to talk to you through those cards only. Because this is what you and I have together as a bond. Oracle cards relate in symbols and words that are simple enough for you to understand. Tarot cards is telling you in details, digging in, and that's their job. The tarot deck is to tell you what is hidden. What's the agenda here? What's the overall picture here? Because the tarot card reader needs to be able to explain to you completely and fully, this is what I'm getting from you. The oracle deck and the oracle cards, this is when you can sit in and you can shuffle, and I prefer personally shuffling my cards this way because I'm touching every single cards. When I shuffle like a playing deck of cards, I feel like it's so generic, and I want to have the cards tell me where to go and move the cards where they want to go. So I personally like to shuffle this way. And when you see people shuffling really fast, because they're so in tune and they're like connected and the cards are just like, we're going this way. But this is where, when you have an oracle deck, and this is what I encourage people to start off with your oracle cards before you really invest in tarot card knowledge, because sometimes your oracle cards that's exactly what you needed to begin with. You don't always need to know fine-tuned details. You just need to know the overall picture. And you just need to talk with whatever spirit energy you're feeling. So this is almost like dialect. So my mom had picked out a new deck. I just haven't ordered it yet. I came across it online and she went, stop, get it. So that's my next deck to order. But I thought it'd be kind of cool just to go over a little bit on my collection. And I have more, but I don't need to have a 2-hour video going over every single cards. But I just thought it'd be kind of cool to share with you a piece of me, a piece of why I relate to certain things and the energy, and just trying to identify energy. And so you can also identify energy. And so you can say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I remember watching that video with that girl in LA. And I remember her saying this felt like a man and masculine energy. And I got all this femininity happening. And sometimes I just need a man's opinion. Sometimes I need a man to come in and tell me what to do. Or vice versa. Maybe you're masculine, but you know what? You got all these women around you and you don't understand. And let me pull out a goddess card so I can understand what my mom and my sister's going through, or whatever other females in your life. It's good to have a broad variety. And so variety is representing different energies. And make sure you have all your energies covered. Make sure you have your feminine, your masculine. Make sure you have things that are grounded. Make sure you have things that flow like water, inspire like fire. Keep variety, keep a selection. Go to what you feel you're drawn and need to the most. Support the cards that you purchase with the artist that is trying to put their mind, body, heart, and soul into their art. And see how you connect and you flow with the energy of the cards. So that was the whole purpose of this video today. And so thank you for following, thank you for watching, and I look forward to talking to you later.